You don't know how amazing you are.
Welcome to the Act Out Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Tomlin. Before we begin, I need you to like, subscribe, 5-star review, and also to share. Please share with your friends, your family, and even your grandpa who doesn't have social media and still uses a flip phone. It's time he gives it a try. We need him for this one. And also, I love constructive compliments. Please feel free to drop those right down below. Any criticism you may have, please send that to the New Heights podcast. And remember, you spell Adam Kelce. Adam was kind of hard to spell that time. Well, today's episode comes from Minneapolis, Minnesota. That's right, Act Attack is back, Jack. And we happen to talk to the real Minnesota Miracle Man. That's right, eat your heart out, Gordon Bombay. We talk with LeVar Woods. LeVar and I have been friends for years, which is a good thing because we bonded over how difficult it was to make friends. We also made obscure wrestling jokes that hardly anyone is gonna understand. We also debated whether it was okay for dads to call it babysitting whenever it's just expected of moms. I say yes, because bowling is so much easier when you have gutter guards. And finally, we talked about how one good act could change the world. So, I wonder what talking about one good act can do. Let's roll the tapes. Now, I am very, very excited to introduce the gentleman to my left is LeVar Woods. He and I were neighbors in Atlanta for about 4 years, I believe. But more than that, he and I, from the very first conversation we had, I knew that that this was going to be somebody that I really wanted to get to know. I hope you've already seen the introduction video. If you haven't, watch this first. Then go back and watch it, please. But in that video, I talk about the people who I enjoy talking to the most, and that they are like authentic, genuine people. LeVar is who I had in mind, or one of the people that I had in mind whenever I was saying that. So I am very, very thankful, LeVar, that you agreed to be on today, man.
Absolutely, yeah, good to be here.
And not only are we, not only did you agree to do the podcast, you also let me stay at your house too. Which is...
Yeah, when we agreed to all this, I didn't know you were staying at my house. So it was cool with the podcast, and, I guess some things come with it. But, here we are.
Yeah. Well, you didn't realize that there would be a 2-year-old tiny tyrant as well, I
mean, I've got a 4-year-old tyrant and a 6-year-old tyrant, so I kind of know how that math works.
How does that work out? Like, usually you can only have one tyrant rule.
No, I mean, they take turns. Like, usually it's not both at the same time. It's they kind of flip-flop, but like right when you get one of them settled, the other one's like, time to clock in.
Okay, maybe we should just stick with the one kid then. Okay.
I mean, yeah, there's this theory that they kind of entertain each other, but they more so will kind of team up to kind of after you. So not a bad idea.
So the only time whenever they're like really working well together is whenever they're trying to drive you and your wife crazy?
I mean, I'm sure there are other times, but I've yet to witness that, so we'll see.
Yeah, man. Well, actually, I think we had too good of a conversation last night. Full disclosure, I am still feeling some of the effects of our great conversation last night.
Yeah, man. It's one of the beauties of bourbon. It's can bring out some great conversation, bring friends together, but next morning might be a little slower.
Yeah. In hindsight, we probably should have thought about, having to do this a little more, especially early in the morning. Yeah.
I mean, but it's good. You talk about authenticity, we're here. It's real life.
That's true. This is about as real as it's going to get, man.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been here in Minnesota?
Just over 2 years. We left Atlanta July 5th. It was right after the 4th of July. Not a fun story or interesting story about why we had to wait a couple of days, but yeah, it's kind of like a marker in my head because it was right after the 4th.
I got you, man. And actually, whenever you and Christy were moving, that was also the time that Kayla and I were starting to move too.
Yeah.
And I think, y'all were gone maybe like a month or two, and then like we had also moved out as well.
Yeah, because Christy came back to kind of tie things up at the house, and I think you guys were maybe just getting ready to move. So yeah, timing was pretty similar.
So what do you have? Which one do you like better, Minneapolis or Atlanta?
Minneapolis is better for my family. We've got Christy's family up here. That's a big support, and just some other things that work out for our family. But being a parent of a 4-year-old and a 6-year-old, haven't been able to get out and explore the city as much as I would like. But Atlanta's hard to beat. It was, I've lived, a few different places. I haven't called them all home, but Atlanta was definitely home.
I loved our neighborhood.
Yeah.
I loved our cul-de-sac. I think that living in Virginia, I'm liking Norfolk better than Atlanta. Like just where we're at, like everything's more walkable. It's a bit smaller.
Yeah.
But I mean, not only that, but like I feel like I've kind of, like as I've developed and gone into therapy and stuff, I've like realized like, man, Atlanta was just like it's too big. And there was also kind of an element of like kind of keeping up with the Joneses. I feel like, especially in our neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like it kind of feels nice to like be out of that, kind of feeling, I guess.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I think for me, there's a lot that I like about here. We're walkable. We got downtown of, Hopkins, our little town that we can walk to, but we're still 15 minutes from downtown Minneapolis. But I think what I haven't found yet is the community that I had in Atlanta. And so, you talked about the neighborhood, and I think it was almost kind of like twofold, because I think we're fortunate to end up where we did in the neighborhood because that cul-de-sac had a ton of great families, a ton of great people. There's just so much drama in the rest of the neighborhood. So like when you talk about keeping up with the Joneses in the neighborhood, it just hit me that Keeping Up with the Joneses was filmed at my house. But as I think about it, the rest of the neighborhood, there was drama. There was people not being great neighbors. Whereas in our cul-de-sac, I felt like it was much more of a community feel. Like, Cam was essentially an infant when y'all moved, but having my kids being a little older, just that sense of having neighbors that were like, hey, I'm making grilled cheese. You want me to make them for all the kids? Making spaghetti. Want me to make it for all the kids? And so just that sense of community to kind of help raise the kids was huge. And so here, we have Christy's family that's a support. We've met a couple of people, but it hasn't been, or at least yet to find kind of our people that we kind of gel with.
I 100% took that sense of community for granted.
Yeah.
Like the house that we had bought, that was our very first, house. And so, we go there and I think there's like 5 or 6 neighbors that like really became friends.
Yeah.
And so I guess in my head, I was like, wherever you go, you just move there and then there's going to be about 10 people around you. You're going to have the time of your life.
100%. 100%. And I think one of the things that makes me sad is just seeing what real estate prices did from the time we moved in till the time we left. And obviously we were fortunate to benefit from that, but I just think it's becoming less and less accessible for a normal family or a normal individual to be able to access that. Like, I couldn't move into that neighborhood right now. Like, it would be beyond our reach. So, it's kind of two sides of the coin. It was great that it happened, but I feel like just with the state of the market and whatnot, it's harder and harder for people to access that.
I think so. We had bought our house in 2019 and then sold it in 2024, I believe. And like how much it had increased in value. If we were trying to buy in then, absolutely no way. I guess the Atlanta market is just kind of different in that sense because like, I don't think is everywhere like the price is going like up that dramatically. I mean,
I'm not as plugged in now, I think with interest
You don't
rates.
have your real estate license anymore?
I do not, the authorities might come after me. But I think, interest rates are significantly higher, which buying a house going from 2.5% to 6+ is a lot of
there's
fun.
something about Powell, lower the rates now, man, you're too late.
Well, I guess we can refinance. Like I don't know that there's a lot in this administration that tickles my fancy, but if we could, lock in at a lower rate, maybe we'll call one win there.
Well, you're not happy with this administration? He's doing such a bang-up job.
I am not a huge fan of disappearing people. I'm not a huge fan of othering people. So, it's not going great.
No. So there was a demonization of the other side for a really long time. I mean, for like as long as I can remember.
When you say the other side, you mean I'm a liberal, I'm demonizing conservatives. I'm a conservative, I'm demonizing liberals. Or are you saying something?
I'm saying both. Oh, yeah, both sides there. But even with the vitriol that was used, I think people at the time was like, hey, this is kind of a metaphor. Like, they're not actually like these, demon people that are trying to, take over the world. But then there has been a transformation, around 2016, give or take, where all of a sudden now, whenever you're like, these people are scum, they literally mean like they are beneath, they're less than human. And I think that kind of rhetoric now is even more dangerous than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, 100%. I think even going past 2016, I think people still thought it was rhetoric. And there were a lot of people, a lot of minorities, because they've experienced kind of the downside of some of the stuff, that warned, like, when you say we need to shore up the border, that, maybe that's fine because, myriad of reasons.
Right.
But for you to say people coming into this country are rapists, people coming into this country, like, at that point, you're taking these awful traits and assigning them to this broad swath of people. And that is just, calling it problematic is an understatement.
Right.
Yeah.
It is unreal how well Trump has used othering. Like, I think that is almost his superpower, is to be like, no. Like, he clearly defines the in group and the out group. And to a certain segment of the population, that's what they're going to go with.
And I think for many people, they're able to create this veil of, no, it's not othering. It's people that are driving crime. It's people that are doing this, but it's a complete, they're conflating the two, and it's crazy. And like, I look at some of them like, you can't be my friend the way you think you can if you voted for Donald Trump. Like, in your head, maybe you think you can, but for you to think so little of how that impacts minorities, my son has an IEP, like how that impacts.
What is an IEP?
I think it's like individualized educational plan.
Okay.
And if that's not exactly what the letters stand for, that's more or less what it is. And so when you think of some of these changes to the Board of Education, when you think of, like how Medicaid impacts people who learn differently, or people who need different supports, or people who have these different medical issues, then so Medicaid funds like some of the programs? So there's programmatic funding. And so even if, like, for example, a family can afford some of the funding that my son is accessing, it's hard for those institutions, or will be hard for them, to stay afloat, because there are a lot of people that can't, they're not receiving that government funding. And so even if in a normal environment, a family could afford that, the fact that so much of that funding has gone away, then it now means that for that normal environment, then I don't know, you're now looking at 2x, 1.5. I don't know the magnitude, but it now becomes more expensive, or you have fewer people that can be in that role, because you can't hire as many practitioners.
Yeah. All during the 2024 campaign. Mm-hmm. In my head, I was like, there is absolutely no way Trump can win. And in hindsight, I really messed up. So what I did, I'd go online and I'd see polls of like, it's neck and neck. It's a close race. I ignored those posts. But the posts that I pay attention to were the ones that are like, Kamala's blowing him out of the water. It's going to be game over. And so whenever election night happened and Trump actually won, that was kind of like shattering for me. And, in a lot of ways, because I was absolutely flummoxed that it could happen in the first place. And then kind of, I guess, doing the postmortem and realizing the effect that political discourse and the dialogue actually had on the effects of the election, especially like the brosphere. I was like, I can't believe people actually took that seriously.
Yeah, it's like there's this kind of misunderstanding of like what it means to be either masculine, or what it means to be, just how you present. And it's almost like, you go back to like some of the ways Trump has kind of cashed in or dialed in on people, but it's almost like he's been able to take advantage of the fact that now it's almost empathy is seen as a weakness versus an attribute. Mm-hmm. And like you talk about some of those, the brosphere and stuff like that. I don't watch enough of those podcasts or listen to enough of them to really weigh in, but it feels like on the surface to me that's kind of the part of the mantra or part of the DNA of him.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the things that I talked about in the introduction. It gets on my nerves. It's no true Scotsman. Like, you're not a real man if you do this or that, and especially like traits like empathy, compassion. Those things have been absolutely demonized, and it's absurd. Like, what I don't think people understand is there is a strength in being compassionate. One of the reasons why I'm starting a podcast is because, I feel like I'm compassionate. I see people hurting. Yeah. And I'm like, man, what can I do to like help? Yeah. I don't think that's weak at all, man. I think that's really freaking strong.
No, it's
don't mean to toot my own horn, but
No. I mean, I think it's, a huge strength. And, I feel like growing up, like it's one of the, many great things about my upbringing, but just like I remember, I couldn't have been more than 5 or 6. And my mom's like, hey, you got a lot of toys. I don't know that you've played with this recently. I know this other mom who, da-da-da. And it's just, I don't know how she explained it to me, but as I try to explain to my 4 and 6-year-olds about, maybe we don't need so many toys. My mom was able to break through better than I could, but there was just this like, oh, okay, not only are we going to give, this family these toys, but we're going to go over. And so like, I got to see like the joy it brought them and the impact. Or like, I remember me telling my dad like, oh, I don't want to go play with someone. So, his house smells weird. He died. And like, my dad was like, no, like that's all the more reason you need to go play with them. Just cause like, if there aren't people that are reaching out to them, then like you need to be the one to do that. And
do you still feel that kind of conviction today?
Oh yeah, even more so. And like, I hate when you like see these things of like, oh, now that I have a daughter, I need to think about how I treat women. Like you shouldn't have to go through something, but it does also kind of crystallize. And so like, having a neurodivergent son and seeing how he struggles socially, it's stuff that like, it makes me so much prouder that my dad was like, yeah, you're someone that should reach out to them. You're someone that should do X, Y, Z. And so, I think like, not that I want to talk politics because it's, just so
good. We haven't talked about it yet, so that's fine.
But well, no, like we kind of have. But there's this whole mantra of America first, and I think what that misses is like, let's say there's this whole scale of 0 to 100, and like if you're out here trying to get America to 100 at any and all costs, if you don't realize that America's better off if you're shooting to make it a 90. But you're not doing it at all costs because you're providing stability to this part of the world, or you're providing aid there. Then like, a rising tide lifts all ships. Okay. And so you think about whether it be the health of other countries because we're able to help provide drugs, like then that's like, I can't think of an example of where like a pandemic has broken out or anything like that.
Actually, in 1919, there was the flu epidemic. Actually,
there
you go. Yeah. So that time,
I think there's just this like rational or this realization. There should be a realization that if you kind of just behave in a way to take care of others, like it'll come back to you in a positive way.
I think, kind of to your point, what I think America first, that mantra, which I mean, on its face, that's fine. I would like America to do really well. But I think one of the problems with like phrasing it that way, it makes it almost zero sum.
Exactly.
Where if you help somebody else, that means America lost. Yeah. And that is not even remotely close. I mean, to your point, whenever you bring like stability to the other part of the world, that absolutely has positive impacts on you at home.
Yeah. Because I think when you say America first, it's implied that it's at all costs, or at least the way it's being executed now.
God bless America and no place else.
Yeah, if we are putting America first, and by that, we realize that, we're being selfish when we send aid here, but we know that's going to help us and make us better. So, like, even if it's not of the purest intent, if you're coming, but that's not what it means. It doesn't mean, like, America first as we lift others up.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that. And you can also say, like, there is no altruistic deed, really, because it's, there obviously a lot of people think that. But yeah, I don't think there is anything wrong with helping someone out and thinking, hey, if I do this, it's probably going to like come back to me at least, in some way. I think that that's actually how social animals, kind of bond.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Actually, though, you and I have a pretty big obligation after this is over. We have to babysit. I'm sorry. I should not. I hate whenever it's the dad and they're like, I've got to babysit today. You're like, you're babysitting your own kid?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, once again, it would be okay to use that term if you also said, yeah, my wife is babysitting the kids, but I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say that.
No. Man, the other day, we were like at a restaurant, and like I was going to pick up our drinks. Kaylin and Camden were already sitting down, and Camden would like stand up in his chair and he would look up and be like, Dad. Just looking and waving. Yeah. I would turn around, smile and wave. And a woman stopped. She's like, you're doing a really good job. Hey, he's blah. And I was like, man, thank you. That makes me, feel good, first of all. But like, no one would ever say that to Kaylin if it were.
The bar is low for men.
It is incredibly sad how low the bar is.
And yet a lot of people can't clear it. Not funny, but.
Yeah, that's one of those that's not funny because it's so true. Yeah. One thing that's interesting, I feel like our generation, especially a lot of people have said this, at least, so like we're the kind of like really starting to like going like head first into the whole parenting thing.
Yeah.
Definitely hard because I feel like I'm having to parent myself as well, and a lot of times I'm the bigger toddler than my toddler. I found out. Yeah. Growing up, I did not learn any like emotional regulation, feelings. Like I thought you could just like stuff them down and then, they'd be over. So, like now that I'm in therapy and having to literally rewire my brain, it's been both incredibly difficult and also incredibly helpful having Camden and like kind of seeing how a relationship can really like grow and develop and watching that. But then at the same time, like having to like give myself a lot of grace because I'm still not quite there on all the, like the emotional regulation and stuff. So it's
absolutely. And so like what's interesting on my end is having an autistic son. Part of the therapies that he's receiving is helping him to identify his emotions so that he can regulate them. So, he'll be like, I'm angry, I'm frustrated. And like you take a step back and like a lot of adults can't put their finger on the pulse. Like, I read something like, I was doom scrolling and some like executive said that like, if you're in a meeting and someone yells at you, the issue was not the font you used. The issue was not that your report was 20 minutes late. Like there's something deeper down and that's what is coming out there. And so I think like a lot of adults, self-included, and, to your point, trying to get better at it, don't realize that whatever you're upset about is not the driver. It's like you fail to identify, I'm hungry. I need to eat I need to eat a snack or whatever it may be. But so like having a son, having to go through that, one, kind of helps frame that for me. But then also having a neurotypical kid, I think it makes us better parents to her because we're able to kind of apply some of those, like a lot of what we learn isn't specific to an autistic kid. Like it's like, this is probably how you should raise a child or like bring these elements in.
So for the first 6 months of therapy, I called it the see and say, like the horse says nay, because it would be like, I'm like this. And she's like, well, where do you feel it? I kind of feel it in my stomach. And so like, I didn't even know like what, like what angry felt like.
Yeah.
Or, like didn't understand that, to your point where, something bad happens, I get so incredibly upset. Well, yeah, that thing that just happened is upsetting, but it's not so upsetting that I'm going to like throw a tantrum.
Yeah.
However, whenever you look back, I'm like, yeah, but before then you didn't eat very well. You know, like I haven't eaten in, 6 hours.
Yeah.
Only slept for 2 hours. Those things can compound or make a situation where you blow up more. And you're like, what in the world is going on? Like, I'm crazy.
Yeah.
No, you're not. Like, you've had a really rough day.
Yeah.
And it just happened to manifest at that point.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head with that had a really rough day, because I think what you'll see is you are frustrated with what happened at work. You get home, and something that would usually be a non-event is now explosive. You know, your kid is sick and crying all night. You get to work the next day. Something that would usually be like, oh, I understand Bob in accounting's coming from, not a big deal, but it's now a big deal because you're tired. And so being able to kind of identify that and approach those situations accordingly is easier said than done.
Yeah.
But it's kind of the goal.
What have you found that's been kind of helpful for you whenever you're in a situation where you're like, hey, I've had a really rough day here and I still have, like 3 hours before the kids go to bed. I don't want to lose my head on them.
Yeah. So 2 things come to mind. One, there's this autism advocate, and her saying, and I might butcher it, but I think she says, misbehavior is communication of unmet needs. So like keeping that in mind, and then trying to frame it, like, especially if it's something coming from the kids, this is not something they're doing to me. This is something they're going through themselves.
Yes. Yeah. Trying to take the ego out of it a little bit, which is very difficult to do. No, but you're 100% correct there.
Yeah. And the more I can, if people just remember, people don't give near as shit about you as you think they do.
Yeah.
Whether that's how you're dressed, whatever, people just aren't centering you to that degree. And I think just one, if you're worried about how you show up for something like that, then that can kind of take that off. But then 2, you realize that other people's actions, whether it be kids or someone at work, it ain't against you. It's them trying to process them not getting enough sleep. It's them being pissed because they got a workload that they got to work through. So it's the more you can kind of remember that, it's like, okay, it ain't about me.
Almost like my mantra, with Camden. And to what that also does, kind of trying to separate myself out of it, whenever he hits me, I don't think he's an asshole. It's not that his behavior is not him.
Yeah.
Kind of separating that. He's not a bad kid. He's having a hard time right now.
Yeah.
I think differentiating that has been helpful, not only for, in raising him, but also for me. Whenever I make a mistake now or something, it's not like I'm a horrible person. No, I'm just somebody that made a mistake.
Yeah.
And it's very helpful in the sense that mistakes don't compound as much as they used to. Because first I'd do something, make a mistake. I am a horrible person.
Yeah. Horrible
people make mistakes. And so I'm horrible. And so I would make more and more mistakes because, of course, I'm a bad person.
Yeah.
But now, if I was like, hey, made a mistake, let's fix this, and then move on.
Yeah, and so I think a small phrase you missed in there is, or a small piece of that, when you said mistakes don't compound, you have to take those steps to make sure they don't, because they can very easily compound and snowball compound, absolutely.
Yeah, so for me, I think that's really difficult, in the heat of the moment with Camden. He's having a hard time, and I want to be the super dad that can help go in and regulate him. But the thing is, I'm not regulated. Yeah. And so what do? I'm holding him and I'm shaking him like he's, like he's a rag doll. And that not a literal rag doll, just, but I'm being so tense that it brings no comfort to him whatsoever. Yeah. And so having to learn to put your own oxygen mask on first is very difficult to do. Yeah,
and I tell you, going back to, rising tides lift all ships, sometimes, at least for me, I feel like I need to save face, or I feel but if you can react and be the parent and I showed you, but everybody's a lot happier if you just take 5 minutes, let things settle, and then just life becomes better in that moment for everybody.
You're right, and I didn't like you just putting the time frame on it is actually helpful, because in that moment, my brain is kind of thinking like, this is it. I've got to do it right now.
Yeah.
But once you take a step back and you like give yourself time whenever you think that you don't have it, it's helpful to like mind shift almost. And so then after you do take that time, you can go back in and you're like, okay, this feels a lot more manageable because we've.
Yeah, because I mean, like my first instinct is like, who does this motherfucker think he is? Or like, who does this motherfucker think I am?
Yeah.
But like, you can. Yeah. I didn't grow up watching WWF for no reason. But
Get the F out.
But if you can, that was well done. I'm not no selling his joke. You can resist that instinct in the moment to who do you think you are, and like distract or be playful. And Christy's way better at this than I am. It almost feels like, I'm letting this kid win, but in actuality, you're being the bigger person because you literally are the bigger person.
Well, yes, LeVar, you're taller than me. Thanks for bringing it up.
Well, yes, I don't appreciate you putting my chair so low to the floor so that we can be at the same height. It feels like a psychological ploy that you're like, first 20 minutes that we're talking, not going to be a big deal. But, an hour in,
I just like looking down on you. Man, then my joke made me forget where I was going to go with that. That's my bad.
1 point for this guy.
With Christy, you said that Christy was like a little bit better of like kind of the quick distraction.
She's a lot of bit better.
Do you think that that goes to like a different, like in how you were brought up versus how she was brought up, or just like a personality? What do you think?
I don't think it's the upbringing. If I had to guess, I would say her background in social work is probably...
And she's also incredibly patient.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably a big part of it. But then just the other big part of it is, you mentioned earlier that like our generation, men are more hands-on in parenting than probably the generation prior. But even with that, Christy is more involved with, especially when it comes to stuff involving like how we navigate Langston's autism, that she's just spent more time doing the work to understand like how some of that goes. And so like, I feel like I've put in quite a bit of work to do that, but she's definitely put in more.
Would you say that like kind of having the therapy that Langston has, it's been beneficial for you? Like kind of, have you learned through osmosis, almost like through?
I mean, to some degree. So we have like regular kind of mental health check-ins with this practitioner, and they call them mental health, but it's more so like how you navigate different situations. And there was one in particular where he was doing, we signed him up for basketball. And, I think from the outside looking in, you might think, oh, LeVar played basketball, he wants his kid to. And so like my being upset with how it went was not going down that line, but it was one, just like, I really want him to be able to engage in this type of thing. And two, just at the time, like his coordination wasn't where it is now. And so just, it made me like kind of sad that like just the coordination, whatever.
Yeah.
But as we're having that conversation, the practitioner is like, so what do you want to get out of basketball? Like, why is it important?
Yeah.
So just kind of
I was about to ask that. So
yeah. So like walking through like, okay, I want him to be able to first and foremost have fun.
Yeah.
But just, and at this age, it's not getting the teamwork aspect, but just like laying the groundwork to like, I think it would be really beneficial for him to do something that involves a team, whether it be a sport or like a debate or whatever, just because those aspects of teamwork, like I think can be really defining. And so like from my childhood, like, I did some individual sports, I did team sports, and just, I think they really help shape you to know that you're accountable to other people and those people are accountable to you. And so
you get from a team sport versus the individual sport.
I mean, you can get aspects out of both of them, but you have that accountability. And so perhaps I'm missing the point of all of this, like where we even got into this, but it was just like taking a step back and being like, okay, the kid's 4 years old or 5 years old, however old at the time, like, let's be clear about what we want to get out of this. And then that can help process how it goes and then like help navigate like how we can do better and set them up for success better.
One of the teamwork, the coordination, like a couple other, well, we're not going to get that from basketball, but let's say we can get teamwork by doing, like the group, I don't know, like group classes or like a sensory friendly activity or something. And then like we can get, what was the other thing?
Well, I wanted to be fun. Like it needs to be something that's fun.
Yeah, exactly. And then hopefully, like there are other ways of hopefully getting that lesson for him that maybe didn't necessarily involve basketball. Yeah,
and just you also have to recognize that today's reality is not necessarily going to be tomorrow's. And so now or a year from now, it might be basketball. He might love basketball for the next 10 years, but that doesn't mean that in that 11th year, it has to be basketball. Like things change. It's just kind of being flexible to roll with it.
Actually, I think it's bowling, right? Didn't he?
He loves bowling.
Yeah. That's awesome. My wrist was so weak, I would have to flick the bowling ball like this. Yeah. And it would have like backspin.
Oh, okay.
So I would knock down negative pins.
I mean, I think that's akin to drug prices coming down 1,500%. Like I don't
right,
think
you are getting paid to take drugs. I don't understand how 1,500% works.
We don't endorse all of these comments.
Well, I meant like you get a prescription from a doctor.
That is what that would entail.
And you would get money back. Yes. So I have absolutely no idea what any other drug deal would be like. So,
Yeah.
The skills of a misspent youth.
There you go.
So you kind of bring in, you just said the 1,500% thing. You were a finance econ major.
Correct.
How would you say the economy's doing right now?
Probably not great. I think what you can't, I don't know that I've said the word conflate twice in the past year, but I'm now going to say it twice in this conversation. I think a lot of people conflate the stock market to the economy, and that's certainly not the case. But, I think it's just a tough environment where, we touched on housing prices, things like that, and the impact of tariffs has not yet been felt, and I'm pretty sure that will change probably I don't want to put a timeline on it, but I'm guessing that will make things more difficult for consumers.
During I think it was the 1980 presidential campaign, Ronald Reagan kind of got in a little bit of trouble. I think misspoke on what he's like, oh, we're in a recession, but they're like, it hadn't actually been two consecutive quarters. What Reagan retorted with, he said, a recession is when your neighbor loses their job. A depression is when you lose yours. And then he ended the quote and didn't have anything else after that. But I actually think that there is a fair amount of wisdom in that, where people feel it on the macro level, and then kind of however they're feeling, they're like, that's what the economy is, actually.
Yeah, no, to some degree, I think that's accurate. But I think that once again, things work better when you recognize that, oh, wow, I'm doing fine, but the people around me aren't. And that ain't ideal.
That's a very broad question, but how do you get that rising tide to lift all boats with the economy? I
mean, that is way beyond what I am doing with my finance degree. So you're gonna ask somebody else that. But I think I am guilty of not doing this. But I think, depending on where you are, that means maybe you need to go work at a food bank on Saturday. Maybe you need to go do this. And so it's not bringing that economy up, but it's helping to kind of uplift your community in that moment.
That's another thing where I think the scale of the problems are so large that it's almost crippling. When you look at it, you're like, oh my, I'm not going to be able to solve world peace. I can't do anything.
Right.
But yes, you're not going to probably solve world peace. You and I could do it, but
you're not.
But at the same time, I may not be able to solve all the world's problems, but maybe if I help somebody out in my community, that can make a difference.
100%.
And then there's the ripple.
So going back to Christy being a saint, there's some different social media groups that we're part of, community based, and are we going to change the landscape of whatever the environment that are? Probably not. Like we're not going to have that impact. But, Christy can take food to someone who said, hey, I'm in a tight spot till I get my next paycheck. Like you did something pretty damn impactful for that one person.
Yeah. And that makes a very big difference. I feel like it becomes contagious.
Yeah.
One good deed can kind of spark another. And I think that is the way actually through all this, and solving the big problems.
Yeah.
Is just you doing your part.
Yeah. I don't know if this quote is real or not, so I'm not going to say the actor in case it's, made up. But I saw a quote saying, I grew up on welfare. I grew up on food stamps and nobody ever helped us. And it's like, I think that was part of the help.
Get your government hands off my Medicare.
Yeah. And so I think it's just, recognizing that people have been helped, and whether it's through an official program like SNAP or whatever it may be, everybody's received help at some point. And the more you can pay it forward and help other people, and that's kind of how this thing should work. Trying to live in a community here.
There is no self-made man.
Yeah.
There is no way that you have gotten where you are on your own.
Yeah. I mean, it goes back to I talked about my upbringing. I could put in all the hard work possible, but if I don't have that foundation, then that makes it that much tougher. If I didn't grow up in a environment where education was prioritized and we had means to pursue that education, and we didn't have to worry about where a meal was coming from, things like that, then if you don't have those, you can still be successful, but it makes it way harder.
Yeah.
And so there's that activity where it's okay, everybody line up and run across the line. It's okay, you take 2 steps back, you take 3 steps forward. It's just recognizing that everybody ain't running the same race.
Mm-hmm. And I think for a long time, I had it in my head. I grew up in a mobile home park. We didn't have a whole bunch of money. In my head, I was I had the whole world against me, and I was able to pick myself up by my own bootstraps, everybody else should too. And then I take a couple of steps back and realize, no, actually, I got some ridiculous opportunities that were luck or privilege, whatever you want to say it, but I am absolutely a beneficiary of that. Yeah. And I think saying that doesn't diminish where I am or, what I've done.
Yeah, I mean, because the vast majority of people, despite those supports or despite their beginnings or whatever, they're still having to put in work. And it doesn't diminish it to say, oh, okay, this was 5%, luck of being born into the family I was born into, 3% having these awesome teachers and then I put in 80%,
and 100% remember the name.
100% remember. Yeah, I jacked that up.
Come on, man, Fort Minor.
And I don't know that we have the music right, so I don't want to put you in a financially tough spot to roll this out. So,
Fort Minor, if you're planning on suing me, remember you spell Adam LEVAR. Thank you.
No. There are way more successful, maybe not way more, but Reading Rainbow, anyone? There are more lucrative LeVars to go after.
But there's none better, man.
You want this thing to be successful. You can't be out here besmirching LeVar Burton's name. The internets will not stand for that. I'll tell you that right now.
The Instagram ads will get me. I'll be scrolling, I'll look down, but oh my, I have needed this thing my entire life. I didn't have the need until right now, but I know I've had it my entire life. I must buy it.
So for me, 99% of the things I see, I'm no, I don't want that. It's not that. But then when I do see that 1%, that goes back to who the fuck they think I am? You think you can goad me into buying? Wait, you do need that. They made you aware of it. That's a good, it's okay. you're allowed to buy something you need, even if they marketed it to you. Like, you're not a mark here.
Okay, so you that gets me sometimes. That attitude where I'm like, I do want this, but like I think you try to manipulate me into it. I'm not going to buy
I'm supposed to come across this organic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like you did. Thank you. Actually, man, it's been really like weird where I told Kaylin that I wanted to start a podcast, and she's like, "Okay, well, let's get to work." I guess I knew that there was a whole bunch of things like behind the scenes.
Yeah,
but like there's production, there's like social media, there's management. There is like so broad of a thing that like it would feel overwhelming to do this on my own.
Yeah,
and so like having the help behind me has been huge. You know, what did you? Just out of curiosity, what did you think whenever I told you that I was going to start a podcast?
I mean, I was like, I don't know, like it's not something you hear every day. Like I think you're maybe the second or third person I know who's done a podcast. I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Where would you rank us?
Well, I have yet to see an episode. So, and the other,
I invited you on. Did the others invite you on?
They did not.
Yeah, come on.
I'll tell you this. I will tell you this. I was listening to one of their episodes, and they mentioned it was like around the big game. I don't know if we're allowed to. I don't want to get you in trouble.
Oh yeah. A great big bowl.
Yes, super. And he mentioned this like I was like, oh yeah, all the appetizers. You got this, and he mentioned something that I kind of put a unique spin on. He just threw it out there like it was like this was like a common dish or something. And I had to hit him up after the fact. He's like, yeah, you were what I had in mind. I was like, a little credit wouldn't have hurt. Let me ask you this. So like, why act out? Like, what does that name signify? Like, how does that tie into like the pod or like, yeah.
So, I mean, it's my initials first. ACT,
okay.
Adam Tomlin.
Did you take the SAT or the ACT?
I took the SAT, and I wanted to take the ACT, but I was like, that is way too much studying for an ego trip that probably won't even happen.
Yeah, and then it would have been quite the embarrassment if that
right
if you wouldn't have scored well. So.
Yeah, no, but so for Act Out, like I think I can't remember if you and I talked about this last night or not. Act Out, they're the three things that I really want to promote. I want to help change narratives, and hopefully we're doing that right now. Talking about like masculinity and like being compassionate too. And masculinity and compassion going hand in hand. Actually, I think that is that's big. But so I want to change narratives. Also want to promote authenticity. People just being themselves, and I want people to be able to pursue their own happiness. Okay. And so I think whenever you put all those together, the best way of doing that is just by acting out.
Okay.
That's right. And so what I'm trying to create, I don't want a moment. I'm going after a movement.
Okay.
Going after hearts and minds.
All right. Did you practice that in the mirror? Because it came off well.
Oh, good. No, it actually, I actually just came straight from the dome.
All right.
But no, I had taken a class in college. I actually had this one professor who, I thought she was great. Mm-hmm. And so, she really I liked her classes so much that I went so far out of my comfort zone. Like I took African-American politics, history, or politics and hip hop, political evolution of Martin Luther King, classes like that. And in the reading Dr. King's works, it was the first time that it kind of hit me where in order to change a mind, you have to touch a heart first. And so big goal that I have, I want to change minds by touching hearts. Okay. That's my goal.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I like it.
Oh, good, man. Thanks. Yeah. And you agreed to be on even before you heard that pitch too.
Well, no, I knew kind of the gist, but I just wasn't quite sure how the name kind of played into that.
So. What would you have called it?
I would have called it the LeVar Woods podcast. Or wait, are you hosting or am I?
We could have done a co-host situation.
So I'm okay, if you're hosting, I would call it the LeVar Woods podcast that we hope to get other people to come on later.
You always have to build a big name first. I totally get it.
Yeah. So I'm awful at naming things. So fantasy football commissioner sent the email like, hey, we got to get ready to go. And he's like, and I'm expecting everyone to come up with a new team name this year. And I had to stop. Like, I'm like, I got too much work to do because I'm sitting there trying to think of every pop culture moment that's happened and like, how can I put a pun on that? And so like, I would lay in bed trying to fall asleep thinking about what the name should be. So I'm not the right person to ask what it should be.
I played fantasy football 1 year in college. And for me, I am either insanely competitive to the point where like I've got to win, or I do not care at all.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to try. Unfortunately, fantasy football fell into the latter.
Yeah.
And I had a really good team helmed by Sean Alexander.
Okay.
Yeah.
I vividly remember his 5-touchdown game, I believe.
I was not playing him that game.
Oh, that sounds like poor management.
No, it was. So what I did, I had my team, and I never like changed it out or anything. So there'd be like Sean Alexander would have 5 touchdowns, but he was sitting out because for whatever, and like Rex Grossman was starting, and he threw 7 interceptions that game. So my name actually became a verb. Where it's like, oh man, you Tomlin it.
So for me, I used to be like super into it. And at this point, just with everything going on in life, it's harder to stay on top of it, harder to keep up with it. But it's a good vehicle to stay connected to people, especially when you're not in the same city as them. So that's kind of where I'm at on it.
Earlier, you had mentioned you hadn't really like gone out and explored Minneapolis the way you'd like to, because of the kids. Have you been able to find maybe not as much of a sense of community as we had in DuPont or in the neighborhood, in the old neighborhood? But have you been able to find some friends
here and there? I would say I've found a lot of acquaintances. Yeah, and there's a few people that I think could be good friends. And it's just even like right now, I'm very outgoing, but it's hard for me to just even work up the emotional kind of, all right, gonna go and meet this person and go. I'm tired come Friday, Saturday. And so it's just been tough. And I think as the kids get older and start getting into more activities, we'll meet parents through that and things like that. So it's been slower to progress. But, I actually thought about this at one point, and this is probably only, I think, the second time in my life where I've been in a position where I've like, quote unquote, had to meet people or had to make friends. Because you think about it, you go to college, everybody has to make friends. So like, you might not like me, but you gotta like somebody here. So everybody's on the lookout. And so there's that. Then I, moved to North Carolina for grad school, same situation. And it wasn't until I moved to Orlando for my first job after grad school where it was like, oh wait, this is like the first time I've ever had to like organically make friends. And so this is probably just the second, and it's a whole different ball game than when you're moving somewhere for school. Yeah,
no, absolutely is. And it's kind of it's almost funny because I've like had a couple since Kayla and I moved. There've been a couple of people that I've met and like like hung out with, and it's almost like a date, in a lot of ways, like trying to be, am I vibing with this person? Like,
ask him for his number. Ask him for his just.
I can't come on too strong though.
Shut the fuck up and ask him for his number.
You're going to regret it if you don't. Yeah, He's a 1 in a million shot, bud.
Yeah. I hear you.
No, it's hard to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Because I'm married happily. Like have a great relationship.
Yeah.
In that sense, I get to hang out with the coolest little tyrant ever every once in a while. Like I have a lot at home. And I know it's important to make friends, but like, man, when home is so cool, you're like, I don't feel like leaving right now, And so, it becomes very difficult.
Yeah, and to some degree, it's like, I want it served up on a platter. I want these people to be like, hey, this is going on. You should come. And truth be told, like, even then, it's like, oof, that's like 5 minutes away. my couch is 5 steps away.
Yep.
So it's just kind of overcoming that and realize that if that's something that I'm going to prioritize, then I do have to put in that work. And I have to, I don't have to always be the one to say, hey, this is going on, let's do it. But some point, I got to be the one to say, hey, let's come do X, Y, Z.
Were you more of the person who would be like, hey, or were you the wrangler, so to speak, like the kind of the leader of your friend groups in the past?
Yeah, but in those situations, your obligations are so much lower than they are now. Like whether you're either in school or, maybe working more of an entry level job where you can show up, after a few bourbons the night before and it's, and it can bounce back a lot easier.
God, yeah.
And so it's just a different environment. And so like in that environment, like I'm done with work at whatever time and I'm at my own pace. If I want to go to the gym, I can. If I want to cook, I can. If I want to go buy food, I can. And like I've got from, let's call it 6 o'clock till I go to bed to do whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Now I either have to, I have to wake up early to go to the gym, scramble, get myself ready, get kids ready, work, don't work. All right, what are these kids going to eat? What are we going to do? Next thing you know, it's 8:30 or 9.
Yeah.
And I've had very little time for myself in that whole day. It's like it's been, and then frankly, at that point, I should be prioritizing interactions with Christy, but I'm so tired that, I just want to turn on the dumbest reality show and just shut my mind off.
Yeah, now that actually you bring up a really good point there. Like by the end of the day, the exhaustion, having to be like on the whole time, I don't want to have to then go out and put myself out there, and try to hang out and assemble a friend group whenever I can just sit back and be like, oh my gosh.
And it's going to be different for everyone. But for me, it's like, even if, I joked about I want them to set it up and me go there. But then even when it's 5 minutes before, it's like, God, I don't want to go. I don't want to do this. Just working up the mindset to get up and go because you're so tired from everything. And then I get there and, I have a good time.
Yeah.
But it's just remembering that while you're getting ready or while you're doing whatever and knowing that this is, you're going to meet them to do stuff you like to do. You're not going to meet them to, I can't think of an activity that sucks, but whatever that may be. So.
Yeah, I think that my brain associates obligations as bad, even if it's a good obligation. So to hey, I'm going to go there. I'm going to have a good time with friends. My brain's like, yeah, but you have to.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, I completely hear you. It's tough, and once again, it's very different than when you're 23 and you have so few people kind of depending on you for all this stuff, and taking away energy is the wrong way to phrase it. But how you're dividing your energy is very different.
Exactly. You only have a finite amount of energy for the day. It's not going to, it's not going to increase. So every every time you're with someone, do something, it takes it down just a little bit.
Yeah. And so we talked earlier about zero-sum games. So your energy is a zero-sum game. You talked about having a family that you love. And so it's investing your energy into something that's great. If you're listening, work. Yeah, I love my job too. So whatever it may be, your energy has to go to those places. And then it's just I don't know if you've seen the cliche example of the professor's how you fill a jar and they're being yeah. All these rocks are I can pour sand in, I can pour water in. So it's just making sure that you're prioritizing what's going into that jar so that there's room for everything else. That was very cliche. I'm sorry.
I was about to say that's very good. So, Kaylin actually has brought this up, and I think it's a really good question. If you could give your 15-year-old self any advice, what do you think it would be?
I think that there was more of an opportunity, call it from 15 through, early 20s. I worked hard. I played hard, but I think there was an opportunity to work harder and play harder. It's just invest in kind of what is going to make you happy and things like that. School came very naturally to me, came very easy to me. And so it was easy to kind of not put in the effort that would have benefited me. I had someone say, someone in grad school said, education's the only thing people don't want to return on. And meaning people are man, I hope class gets canceled today.
Yeah.
And so I think just maybe seizing more of those opportunities, it's a privilege to be in those positions and you want the benefit of it. So maybe act a little more accordingly.
You brought up a a point that kind of really resonated with me with school being, like pretty easy for you. Same. But what that did, it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. What I thought was that everything had to come that easy. If it wasn't easy, then I was just bad at it.
Yeah.
I knew in theory that you could practice and get better at something, but because like certain things came very naturally to me, if something didn't like immediately stick, I'm like, oh my, I am awful at this. I better not do it.
And so like, let's say you finally get to that class that is tougher for you. It's like, oh, well, I can just kind of do whatever I want to do and get a B. But also, what happens if I really do try and still get a B? Like, that's scary.
Yeah.
That's not fun. And so that can impact
kind of protecting yourself a little bit. Yeah. No, I definitely did that growing up. You don't realize you're not consciously making that decision at the time, but whenever you're looking back, you're like, oh, I was protecting the shit out of my ego because I could not handle making a mistake for almost 40 years of my life. Like I literally, like my body took making a mistake as a like survival threat. And I now realize that like probably not the healthiest way of going about things, especially considering humans are imperfect creatures that, by their very nature are going to...
Minnesota's own Kurt Hennig excluded.
Rest in power, King.
Yeah.
God, I forgot that Kurt Hennig was from Minnesota.
There's a lot of wrestlers from Minnesota. I think Flair's from here. Rick Rude. Yeah.
I know he trained here at least. No, and I think he's even from here. You're right.
I think one of the Road Warriors, like they all went to, a bunch of them went to high school together.
Yeah. Dude, that would have been the scariest high school ever.
Well, might have been some anabolic things. We're just joking. Like, don't need anybody's estate coming after us.
So, LeVar, how do you think your 15-year-old self would see you now?
Definitely, there would be some areas like surprise, like Minnesota, huh? Originally from Houston. That's quite the change. But I think just from a success standpoint, I don't want to sound arrogant either. Be like, oh yeah, I thought that would be success, or like oh wow, like you got this really cool family. That's awesome. And so like, I want to be clear when I say success. I'm not tying that to maybe like a traditional sense of success, but more so like these are the things I value. And so by prioritizing those and doing whatever, like that's what I'm calling success. So
would your 15-year-old self be proud of you?
Oh, I think absolutely. Especially, I think even like if 15-year-old me was able to kind of like not just like see me or whatever, but like dig into thoughts and like think about like, so like some of the things, and this is even prior to my autistic son being born, but like just like vividly remembering like times when I've been unkind, like as a kid when I was unkind to people and things like that. Like, oh, I feel awful about that. And like before I had kids, I remember telling my sister-in-law, I was like, or maybe it was like right after Langston was born, it was like two things like terrify me of having kids. Like one is that kid being bullied, and the other is that kid bullying someone. And so I think just the fact that like I've had that kind of growth in by 15, I think I was past a lot of that stuff, and it was never like bad, just like, kids can be unkind. Yeah. And so I think just knowing that like that kind of outlook, or, we touched earlier about like how community is important and things like that. So yeah, I think 15-year-old me would be proud of that kind of attitude toward life and that kind of stance.
And I'm also proud of you too.
Like current day you or 15-year-old you, or both?
Oh, both equally.
Okay. Equally?
Yeah, probably. Don't get into the semantics of it.
Okay.
LeVar, thank you so much for acting out with me.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Folks, that's all the time we have today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, 5-star rating, whatever it is. And please forward this to a friend. We want to spread the message on. For the Act Out Podcast, I'm Adam Tomlin. Thanks for acting out with me.